Here's what most people get wrong when it comes to teaching at the college level, especially when it comes to adjunct instructors. They assume it's a respected, fairly compensated job that naturally leads to full-time opportunities in higher education. You know, something you do for a few semesters before you're offered a salaried role with benefits. But what if I told you that most adjuncts are being paid less than minimum wage, with zero benefits, no job security, and no clear path forward? That's the reality that colleges don't want to talk about, but it's about time we do. I'm Tanya, and I've been where you are. Passionate about teaching, excited to step into the classroom, and hopeful that an adjunct position would open doors. And while I don't regret the experience at all, because it taught me a lot, and I honestly still work as an adjunct, I do wish someone had sat me down and showed me the full picture before I signed my first contract. Because the truth is, this isn't just bad luck or one person's story. The shift towards adjunctification has been decades in the making. As public funding for higher education shrank, colleges leaned harder on part-time labor, while administrative costs soared. Because when it comes down to it, it is much cheaper to hire 3 adjuncts instead of 1 professor with benefits. And institutions have made that math work in their favor. In this video, I'm going to talk you through exactly how adjunct salaries work, what most schools don't tell you, and the long-term impact this can have on your career and your income. No fluff, just the facts, and a few stories from my own experience. If that sounds good to you, give this video a big thumbs up and let's get into it. Now let's start with what most people think adjunct teaching is. You're hired to teach 1 or 2 college courses, usually on a semester to semester basis. You're not tenured, you're not full-time, and you're technically classified as part-time, even if you're teaching a full course load across multiple campuses. Sounds manageable, right? For a lot of us, it starts out feeling like the perfect setup. You get to teach a subject you love. You have the flexibility to work around your other responsibilities. And you assume it's a great stepping stone, a way to get your foot in the door of academia. But here's the thing. Adjunct roles are designed to be temporary, replaceable, and honestly, inexpensive for the institution. You're doing the exact same work as full-time faculty members, but without any of the added protections. And beyond pay, adjuncts don't even get the basics. No office space to meet students, limited access to the library or IT support, and sometimes pressure not to push back too hard. Because after all, you're replaceable. Even academic freedom feels different when your contract can just disappear if you make waves. And here's where it gets real. Most adjuncts are paid by the course, not by the hour. Let's say you're paid $3,000 to teach a 3-credit hour course over a 15-week semester. That might sound okay at first glance, but when you break it down, it's an entirely different story. You're creating your syllabus. You're preparing weekly lesson plans. You have to grade papers and exams, hold weekly office hours, and answer emails often every single day. When you total those hours, you're literally working like 10 to 15 hours a week. And that $3,000 suddenly becomes a lot less. Not to mention you're not getting health insurance, no retirement contributions, no sick leave, no paid holidays, and no guarantee of even having that job the following semester. And worst of all, some schools don't even pay you until the end of the semester after you've done all the work, which means you're waiting months with not a single paycheck in sight. And according to Inside Higher Ed, most adjuncts make less than $3,500 a course. And the American Federation of Teachers found nearly 25% live below the federal poverty line. And about 38% rely on public assistance just to get by. It's exhausting, and it's invisible labor that most people, including students, never see because the university doesn't want you to. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take a look at some employee salaries because faculty salaries are public knowledge, and there is an employee salary database at the university I teach at, and that's what we're going to be using. Now, I've pulled up several different instructors that we're going to take a look at. So first, we're going to start at the top and work our way down. We're going to start with someone who is a full professor in the School of Music. So as you can see here, This person makes $96,626.83 a year. Not bad, but full professor takes a long time to get to. Okay, now we're going to step down to an associate professor. Okay, this is an associate professor in the English department, and this person makes $75,423.80. Okay, so this is an assistant professor, which is the bottom rank in professorship. And this person's in the marketing department and they make $120,000 a year. So you see some discrepancy anyway between the different departments. And that's based on supply and demand. That's pretty normal. Okay, so now I know that I am an adjunct. So we are going to put in my name. And oh, look. Nothing. I am not listed, but I am faculty and I am adjunct faculty and I am teaching 3 courses this semester, but no salary is mentioned. Now, I looked up 2 other people that are listed on the website for the university as being an instructor and a lecturer, and I'm guessing that means adjunct. So we're going to type their names into and see if they come up. Nothing at all. And I do also want to say, you might be thinking, oh, well, different levels of education. Every single person that I am putting in here has a doctorate. This is an instructor in the English department. Oh, this person is listed. Okay, so this person is not an adjunct faculty member. They do teach in the English department. They have a doctorate and their salary is $58,814. Okay, so now let's take a look. I had to actually Google how much adjuncts make at this university to find this. And these are the part-time adjunct faculty employment policies. So I found some very interesting things here. Starting off here, part-time and adjunct faculty are hired based on academic preparation in the instructional discipline or a related area, potential ability in instruction, public service and or research, and or professional experience comparable to that of full-time faculty counterparts teaching in the same discipline. Okay, so now it says here, requirements for consideration. The applicant must hold the terminal degree in the teaching field. If the terminal degree is not a doctorate, the applicant must provide external evidence that the degree is considered terminal or sufficient by discipline. So basically, you have to have a doctorate or its equivalent in order to become an adjunct instructor. But your pay is low. So here is the adjunct pay criteria. $800. The university will compensate adjuncts a flat rate of $800 per number of credits granted towards the faculty load. So $800, that's it. That is the adjunct salary for everyone at the university. It does not matter what department you're in, what level of experience. So whether you're an adjunct in the music department, the English department, the math department, the marketing department, it's still $800 a credit hour. Now let's break the adjunct salary down. For this example, I'm using the adjunct salary at the university that I teach, which is $800 per credit hour or $2,400 per course. For that, you spend 3 hours a week teaching. No big deal. And this is where people think you make a lot of money because $2,400 for just 3 hours a week is not so bad. But you have to prepare to teach. So we're going to add another 3 hours for lesson planning and prep. You also have to grade. Okay, so sometimes you may have a multiple choice test, but most likely there are essays students have to write. This is college after all. So let's say it takes you 15 minutes to grade a paper. You have 30 students in your class. That's 7.5 hours of grading. Now, grading isn't all essay questions, so multiple choice. So maybe all you have to do is walk across campus to the machine that reads all the bubble sheets. So you go ahead and take the Scantrons and you run them through the machine. It takes time to walk there, time to wait in line to run them, time to walk back. So we're going to say an hour. So let's take 7.5 plus an hour and just kind of average that out to 4.5 hours a week for grading. You also have to have office hours. So let's give you 2 hours a week of office hours. And then there's email and administrative tasks. Let's give 30 minutes a day for that. So 2.5 hours a week. This doesn't include attendance reporting, midterm grading, monitored student athlete progress reports, all of which are part of your job. That 3-hour course is now 15 hours a week, which is what we said earlier, 10 to 15 hours a week. Now, 15 hours a week by 14 weeks in a semester, you come up with a grand total of 210 hours. So that paycheck of $2,400 for that class divided by 210 hours means that you are making $11.43 an hour. Now, since we went ahead and used the average pay at the university I teach at, we're going to factor in the cost of living where I teach. So I looked up starting pay at several other places in the area. If you start at Starbucks, you're going to make $16.25 an hour. If you start at McDonald's, you're going to make a whopping $21.50 an hour here in my town where my university is. That blew my mind. Publix is going to be $14.81 an hour if you want to work in a grocery store. Maybe you don't want to do fast food. Or fast casual, Cava, $16 an hour. All of which are significantly higher than an adjunct salary pay. Now, this next point is one of the hardest parts to explain and honestly one of the most disheartening. You assume that by teaching as an adjunct, you're building a resume for a full-time university position. But in many cases, adjunct experience isn't treated as an equivalent to full-time faculty experience, even though you're doing the exact same work. It's a system that can keep you stuck in a loop. You teach multiple semesters as an adjunct. You apply for a full-time position. Then you're told you lack relevant experience. I've seen incredibly qualified instructors passed over because they were just adjuncts. One adjunct put it this way: I taught 5 courses in one semester and still had to skip meals in order to pay my rent. That's not a stepping stone, that's exploitation. And that's the hidden cost, not just financially, but professionally. You're gaining experience, but it's not always the kind of experience that moves you forward. And if you're lucky enough to apply at an institution that considers adjunct work as credible experience, you often find you don't have enough research experience. Adjuncts often have to juggle multiple teaching positions at multiple universities just to get by. And this leads to time restraints and burnout, which results in the inability to pursue professional research. This can hinder career advancements and limit your ability to secure tenure track roles in the future. One of the hardest moments I had as an adjunct was when a student came up to me after class and said, "I hope I'm as lucky to have a career like yours in the future." They just assumed that I was a full-time professor with benefits and a full-time income because why wouldn't they? What they didn't know is I was teaching 3 classes at another university just so that I could pay my bills. No health insurance, no paid time off. And I had no idea if I would have a job the next semester. And I know you can buy private insurance, and I'm talking about adjunct positions in the United States. I know this is not as big of an issue, insurance anyway, in other countries, but I have private health insurance. And I also recently went through cancer treatment, and I pay $622 a month for my health insurance. And that was with a deductible of $7,200 and an out-of-pocket max of $9,200. It wiped my savings account out to cover my cancer treatment. And the truth is, adjunct faculty are the majority of the faculty. Contingent positions now make up 70% of US faculty. In other words, most of higher education runs on precarious labor, and students often don't realize that most of their professors are adjuncts, working on the margins of the very systems they're paying thousands of dollars to be a part of. So here's my honest advice. If you're considering being an adjunct, go in with your eyes open. Know how much you'll be paid and what that's going to break down when it comes to hourly rates. Ask when you'll get paid and how often, and understand that you're trading time and energy into something that may or may not move your career forward. And remember, many labor protections don't apply to adjuncts, all because of the teacher exception in the labor laws, which states a teacher is exempt from minimum wage and overtime protections if their primary duty is teaching, tutoring, or lecturing to impart knowledge, and if they are performing that duty as an employee of an educational establishment. That means no overtime, no guaranteed sick leave, and in some states, even unionizing is blocked. Now, if you're passionate about teaching, there are other ways to do it. You can build your own platform, create online courses, or teach workshops that will allow you to reach more people and get paid fairly for your expertise. There are several factors that are causing this widening gap between adjunct and tenured faculty salaries. The people who run these schools are increasingly from a business background, not education, and they're putting financial pressure on universities to reduce costs. This prompts institutions to rely heavily on adjunct faculty because hiring adjuncts can save on salaries, benefits, and long-term commitments that come with tenured positions. This cost-saving measure has led to the adjunctification of higher education, where part-time faculty handle much of the teaching load and tenured positions take care of administrative tasks. And well, that's no way to run an educational institution. If you've been an adjunct or you're considering it, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments. Let's open up this conversation, because the more we talk about it, the more we can challenge a system that has been broken for way too long. And until next time, peace out.